So Charlotte Brown was just 24 years old when she was killed after being thrown from a speedboat into the Thames during a first date.
Jack Shephard was convicted of manslaughter and is believed to be due for release from prison this month. Charlotte's father, however, has said it's too soon and still wants answers as to what happened that night. And we're going to speaking to him, Graham Brown, in just a moment. First,
Charlotte's father, Graham Brown, is here with us now. Good morning to you, Graham.
Good morning, thank you
for joining us this morning. We've met you a number of times over the last few years to discuss this tragic case and the loss of your lovely daughter. For anybody that hasn't heard you talk about it, before we get into the detail of what you're looking for from the situation, just remind us of what she was like and as a daughter and a sister.
Oh, my God, it's so hard talking about my daughter because she was just such a wonderful daughter and she was just so full of life and so full of fun. She just got promotion and she was looking forward to a successful career in the beauty industry. You know, she was looking forward to, you know, taking a driving test, all those normal things. I mean, she was 24 years old when she lost her life. And she's had that life robbed from her. And it feels like a lifetime of grief that we've been condemned to, losing Charlotte. And of course, Christmas time is always a time when families get together, so perhaps it's felt a bit more keenly at this time of the year, but she's just still loved and still missed.
and so painful because it was in December, of course, that she died, and it's just horrific for you. And then you know that the person responsible for her death, the person convicted of manslaughter, is imminently going to be released. Now, he's being released after spending 5 years in prison, but only 3 years of that is for being responsible for the death of your daughter.
Absolutely.
The other 2 years is for an entirely separate case. Anyone watching will think 3 years for manslaughter does not feel like justice when you have lost your daughter.
Well, you know, I mean, for the family, the heartache and grief is the main thing, and nothing will replace losing our Charlotte. I can't really comment on the criminal justice system, but mostly for us, we still don't know what happened that night.
No.
Because Jack Shephard, as we all know, absconded from his trial. He wasn't present at his trial, so we never got to hear his version of events. It was never challenged or cross-examined. He subsequently fled to Georgia, and on his return, he let out snippets like my daughter was driving the boat, which we totally disbelieved because the boat was so unworthy, and it was proven at court, you know, it would have taken a really strong man to control the steering. My daughter had never been on a speedboat. And so we don't know what happened in those final moments, and his version doesn't stack up. And, you know, for us, we just don't know what happened to our daughter.
During the court case, it was described, getting in the speedboat was described as driving a car that's failed its MOT the wrong way up the M1 at night with its lights off at 100 miles per hour. It's pretty certain someone's going to get killed or seriously hurt.
Absolutely.
One of the things that you've said to us about Charlotte, and you've got 3 daughters, but she was a very sensible girl, the most sensible of the 3. The idea that she would get into a speedboat that seemed that unseaworthy anyway and then take control at that sort of speed just is very unlike her.
Well, you know, Charlotte had never been on a speedboat. In my own mind, I think she was just thinking that it was just going to meander up the Thames. I mean, this was a first date. She'd actually had a bad day at work. When you look at how it built up to it, I'm sure she thought it was just going to meander up the Thames. She would have had no idea that Shephard would have put it into full throttle. But, you know, there's so many unanswered questions. How did he, if the boat was travelling at 30 knots, how did he manage to hold on to the boat, which apparently flipped over? It is what it is, and we'll probably never know because he won't come out and say what happened to my daughter. But the version just doesn't stack up in our minds.
I can feel coming from you the compounded agony of not knowing what happened that night. It is a hell on earth to lose a child.
Yes.
But your mind must go over and over and over. Well, what happened?
Yeah.
Who was in charge?
Yeah.
Where was she in the boat? What did he do afterwards? At what point could she have been saved? At what point could that have all stopped?
Well, we know it didn't come out at trial because the police didn't do a blood test after the incident, so Shephard didn't have a blood count taken. But he admits they know that they went to the Shephard restaurant and they drank a bottle of wine between them, and they did an autopsy on my daughter, and her blood test was very low. It was lower than the drink drive limit, and there's this formula that they can, well, if a bottle and a half was drunk, my daughter's blood count was this, then you can work out what his was. But it wasn't admissible in court. But the police did their facts, and he was 3 times over the drink drive limit. But they couldn't actually, it was inadmissible for arguments like you could have spilt a bottle of glass of wine in the restaurant and all this. So he was drunk. We know he was drunk. And when he was pulled from the water, when Shephard was pulled from the water, the testament from the ambulance driver was that he was drunk and he could barely walk and he was speech was slurred and stunk of alcohol. So you put that together, and he was driving that boat. What actually happened to my daughter that night with that man? You know, I mean, Charlotte must have been absolutely petrified. And she was a very sensible kid. She was not reckless. You know, you look at the circumstances and you can say it appears reckless, but she wasn't like that. She was a sensible kid, and she must have been terrified.
Do you want to hear from Jack Shephard the honest truth of what happened?
Look, anything could have happened that night. His version was that Charlotte was driving and the boat hit a log and it went out of control. And that was accepted at court. That was accepted at court, only purely because he wasn't there and there was no other evidence to dispute it. But there was a lot of circumstantial evidence to call that into question. The actual how Charlotte came to be flung from the boat. So we don't know.
And he didn't have the decency to appear in court
in
order to be able to explain what
he
happened.
fled. And as I say, not knowing leads the family to a lifetime of grief. I mean, I probably, like most parents who have lost a child, you know, I think of my daughter, it seems 3-4 times a day, every day. And it is agony. It kills you, losing a daughter.
Graham, one of your other daughters, Katie, had a little son and named him Charlie after Charlotte. I imagine that there's sort of some joy in that, seeing him grow and flourish. And...
Yeah, I've got 3 grandsons. Charlie was the latest. He was born 3 years ago. We all thought it was going to be a granddaughter, but he turned out to be a grandson. So, yeah, he's a Charlie, and he brings great joy. And I'm very, very lucky to have such a good family and grandsons. And I've still got 3 daughters, and they still bring an absolute joy to my life. So, and I'm retiring in March. So I can dedicate the rest of my time to my grandchildren and my daughters.
Graham, you know, our hearts are with you.
They really
it's
are.
a particularly difficult time right now, I know, as he's released from prison, but you've done your daughter justice.
I hope so. She deserved it.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.